In the 1866 novel Crime and Punishment, Fyodor Dostoevsky constructs not merely a narrative about homicide, but an extended psychological inquiry into the structure of moral consciousness. The novel asks a radical question. What happens when an individual attempts to place himself above ethical law? Rodion Raskolnikov, the protagonist, formulates a theory that divides humanity into two categories: the ordinary, who must obey moral law, and the extraordinary, who may transgress it if doing so advances the cause of history. His justification for murder is therefore not emotional impulse, but philosophical ambition. He seeks to test whether he belongs to the class of superior individuals who can override conventional morality. The murder of the pawnbroker is executed as an experiment in moral exceptionalism. Yet immediately after committing the act, Raskolnikov's psychological state begins to deteriorate. He experiences fever, paranoia, confusion, and erratic behavior. His intellectual framework appears intact on the surface, but internally he is destabilized. The theory that once appeared coherent now clashes with a deeper, pre-rational moral awareness. This tension produces what modern psychology might describe as severe cognitive dissonance. Raskolnikov's conscious ideology asserts that he was justified. His conscience insists otherwise. The result is fragmentation of the self. He oscillates between pride and self-loathing, superiority and despair, confession and concealment. Dostoevsky presents guilt not merely as an emotion, but as an existential condition that cannot be permanently suppressed. Isolation intensifies this fragmentation. To sustain his theory, Raskolnikov must detach himself from ordinary human sympathy. He attempts to reduce others to abstractions rather than persons, yet human identity is relational. The more he isolates himself, the more acute his psychological suffering becomes. His claim to be extraordinary paradoxically renders him profoundly vulnerable. The character of Sonia serves as a psychological counterpoint. Where Raskolnikov embodies rational pride, she represents humility and moral endurance. Through her presence, the possibility of reintegration emerges. Confession becomes the turning point. By admitting his crime, Raskolnikov abandons the grandiose self-concept that sustained his ideology. This surrender reduces the internal division that has been tearing him apart. Punishment in the form of exile and hard labor functions not only as a legal consequence, but as a psychological restoration. Once he ceases resisting guilt and accepts responsibility, the path toward inner coherence begins. Dostoevsky suggests that suffering, when consciously embraced rather than denied, can lead to moral and psychological renewal. The novel ultimately challenges the assumption that intellect alone can define ethical truth. Raskolnikov's failure demonstrates that moral law is not merely a social convention, but an intrinsic component of human consciousness. To violate it is to divide oneself. To acknowledge it is to restore unity. In this way, Crime and Punishment anticipates later psychological theories of repression, fragmentation, and internal conflict. It portrays crime not as a simple legal infraction, but as a rupture within the structure of the self. The true punishment is not imprisonment by the state. It is estrangement from one's own moral center. Dostoevsky's conclusion is austere but clear. Psychological integrity depends upon moral humility. Any attempt to transcend conscience in pursuit of superiority leads not to greatness, but to inner collapse.